Welcome to Deschutes Public Library's online programming. I'm Liz Goodrich, part of the Community Relations team, and we are here for a program titled The Power of Conspiracies in U.S. History. Before I introduce today's presenter, just a couple of things. There is a link to an online survey before and after today's presentation. If you would take a few minutes and fill out that survey, just gives us some information about what kind of program you'd like to see the library do. And also a reminder that all of our presentations live on our YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to that YouTube channel and always get updates on what we've been adding to our programming schedule. So survey and YouTube. And now I'd like to introduce today's presenter. Kathryn Olmsted is a professor of history at the University of California, Davis, and the author of Real Enemies, Conspiracy Theories and American Democracy, World War I to 9/11, published by Oxford University Press. She has researched and written extensively about conspiracy theories in the U.S. history. Welcome, Kathryn.
Thank you for having me. Okay. All right, now today I want to talk about conspiracy theories in U.S. history in the 20th and 21st centuries. And in particular, I want to focus on anti-government conspiracy theories and the effect that they're having on our political culture today. So I want to do first just a little bit of background about conspiracy theories across cultures and over time. And then I'm going to focus in on anti-government conspiracy theories here in America. All right, first of all, let me begin with some definitions because a lot of people don't like to be called conspiracy theorists or what they believe to be conspiracy theories. So I think we should be clear about what we're talking about. I try and have a neutral definition of conspiracy theories. So the legal definition of a conspiracy is when two or more people get together in secret to do something illegal. And a conspiracy theory is a theory about a conspiracy that has not been proven to be true. So in other words, you think that there is a conspiracy. You think more than two people are getting together in secret to do something illegal or improper, but you can't quite prove it. So there have been cases in US history when people had a conspiracy theory about the government that turned out to be true. So think back about Watergate and the reporters Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward. They had a conspiracy theory about the White House. They believed that there was a conspiracy going on in the Nixon re-election campaign, and that turned out to be true. Now, most conspiracy theories don't turn out to be true, but that's the definition that I'm going on. So it isn't necessarily untrue. It's a theory that you have, that you think there's this thing going on, but you can't prove it yet. All right, so over time, there have been conspiracy theories, various genres. So the one genre that's been around for the longest time across cultures and over hundreds of years are conspiracy theories based on race, ethnicity, religion, or class. So the slaves are going to revolt, or the Jews are out to get us, or the Catholics, or the Mormons, or the Italians, or the Irish. So these are common in all cultures and have been around for centuries. There are also conspiracy theories about secret societies. Those are a little more recent, particularly since the last couple hundred years, since the French Revolution. And then there are conspiracy theories about the government. And in the United States, these have really only become prevalent in the last 100 years. All right, so as you said, there have been conspiracy theories for centuries. Anti-Semitic conspiracy theories were very common in the Middle Ages in Europe, particularly the blood libel. This was the theory that Jews were kidnapping Christian children and ritualistically killing them for their blood, and then using that blood in religious ceremonies. So this conspiracy theory, which was completely untrue, led to a lot of violence against Jews in Europe. And then in the French Revolution, there started to be a lot of conspiracy theories about secret societies, the Freemasons, and particularly the Illuminati. So this is the cover of a book that was published in 1798 about conspiracies involving the Illuminati in Europe. All right, so we have those kinds of conspiracy theories about ethnic groups, racial groups, minorities, or about secret societies that have been around for a really long time. Now, in the United States, the conspiracy theories that are really popular right now are conspiracy theories about the US government. So when we look historically at conspiracy theories about the US government, they track with periods. They tend to be very popular in periods when Americans do not have very much trust in their government. So what I have here on the slide is a graph of Americans' trust in government since the 1960s. And the graph plots the percentage of Americans who said that they had, who told pollsters they had faith in the US government to do the right thing all or most of the time. So people were asked, do you believe that the US government does the right thing all of the time, most of the time, some of the time, or none of the time, right? And so the percentage of people who said all or most of the time was almost 2/3 in the middle 1960s. They trusted their government to protect their security, right, to do the right thing. And then you can see that it starts to fall dramatically in the late 1960s. And it has ups and downs. But if you look at the very end of the graph there, since about 2008, it's been a very, very low number of people who trust their government to do the right thing most of the time, right? And that number hasn't shifted with with President Obama or President Trump. It's been very low under both presidents. All right, so this distrust in government has translated into a lot of conspiracy theories about the government. So let me just give a little bit of history about why that number of Americans who trusted their government began to fall. Starting in the 1960s, in 1963, there was the assassination of John F. Kennedy, which was, of course, a terrible shock to Americans. And then to compound the shock, 2 days later, the person who was in custody, who was suspected in shooting the president, was in turn shot and killed himself on live television. And so this assassination of the suspected assassin then led to a lot of conspiracy theories that, in fact, there had been a much bigger conspiracy behind the assassination of the president. And these theories began to get more popular in the late 60s and especially in the 1970s, that there was this cabal, possibly within the government itself, that was responsible for assassinating the US president and therefore the ultimate destruction of democracy. And then there was another big shock to Americans' trust in government with the Watergate scandal in the early 1970s. This is a picture of the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C. Now, of course, the Watergate scandal was not just about one break-in in the Democratic National Committee headquarters in the Watergate office complex. Instead, it was about the revelation not just of that one burglary by agents of the committee to reelect the president, but many other burglaries. Well, that's the one where they got caught, but it turned out that the committee to reelect the president had broken into many different Democratic candidates' offices over time and used money from illegal campaign contributions to pay for these illegal operations, and then covered it all up, or tried to cover it up, by enlisting the FBI and CIA. So when all of this started to come out in 1973 and 1974, of course, it had a devastating effect on Americans' trust in their government. Now, I would argue that even more important than Watergate is what happened right after Watergate, with an investigation of the secret agencies by the US government by a Senate committee. And this is a picture of the Senate committee. It was headed by the man who is in the right-hand corner there with the glasses. His name was Senator Frank Church. He was a Democrat from Iowa. And Senator Church wanted to head this investigation of the CIA and the FBI and the NSA right after Watergate, because he believed that Watergate had shown that secret agencies had misused their power. And so he wanted to have an investigation that would sort of cleanse the government, that would reveal all of the skeletons in the closets of the US government after Watergate, so that Americans could now know that all of the crimes had been revealed and they could trust the government again. So it was his way of trying to restore faith in the government. So he headed this investigation, a bipartisan Senate investigation that lasted almost a year and a half, had more than 70 staff members, and had total subpoena power to have the NSA, the CIA, and the FBI give all of their secret records to the Senate committee and to testify. And Senator Church's plan was to find out, was Watergate anomalous, or were there other secret plots in the US government that needed to be exposed? And what he discovered was that, there were quite a number of activities by secret agencies in the US government that people in 1975 and 1976 considered to be abuses of power or possibly even crimes. So the Church Committee, for example, investigated CIA assassination plots against foreign leaders and discovered that the CIA had tried to kill several foreign leaders, including, most notoriously, that it had tried to kill Fidel Castro of Cuba many different times and had involved the mafia, mobsters in its plots. The Church Committee discovered that the CIA had tested drugs on unsuspecting American citizens. The Church Committee discovered that the FBI had been spying on many dissident groups, particularly civil rights groups, that it had spied systematically on Dr. Martin Luther King. This is a page from the report that the Church Committee put out about not the assassination of Dr. King, but about the FBI's attempts to discredit Dr. King with various groups. The Church Committee also discovered that the FBI had gone so far as to send Dr. King a letter suggesting that the FBI was going to reveal that he had had extramarital affairs and suggesting that he might want to kill himself before this came out. And so parts of this letter from an FBI official to Dr. King were made public as part of the Church Committee investigation. So all of this was tremendously alarming and upsetting to a lot of American citizens in 1976 when it came out. And so Senator Church, instead of achieving his goal of trying to restore faith in the government by having this very open and honest and transparent investigation, in fact, he saw the Americans' trust in government fall as a result of his investigation. And the Church Committee is something that I have personally researched, and this is what led me to conspiracy theories. Because I became interested in how conspiracy theories about the JFK conspiracy, about various conspiracy theories about the US government went way up in the 1970s. And I was wondering, why did conspiracy theories become so much more popular in the 1970s, particularly conspiracy theories about the US government? So this is a graph that shows the percentage of Americans who believed that there was a conspiracy in the assassination of John Kennedy. And you can see that it approached 90% in the 1970s after the Church Committee investigations. And I personally became aware of all of the conspiracy theories about secret government activities when I published my first book called Challenging the Secret Government, about the Church Committee and other congressional and journalistic investigations of the CIA and FBI after Watergate. I published this book in the 1990s. It was about events in the 1970s. And I started getting contacted by people from around the country who read this relatively obscure academic book and wanted to talk to me about how they had read the Church Committee reports, how they had followed it so intensely, and how they were convinced that there were other government conspiracies that the Church Committee had not revealed. In other words, they had read all that there was about these investigations, and they said, okay, what else is there out there that they haven't told us about? So this revelation of real government conspiracies led to a lot more conspiracy theories about the government. So I got really interested in this dynamic between actual government conspiracies that had been documented by reports like those of the Church Committee and conspiracy theories about the government. Now, the Church Committee was in the 1970s. Of course, there were other events that then increased Americans' distrust of government. The Iran-Contra scandal was another devastating event for many Americans that increased their distrust of the government when it was revealed that the Reagan administration had secretly traded arms for hostages and then used the profits from those deals to send to anti-communist rebels in Central America. And so the Iran-Contra scandal, again, led to a big drop in Americans' trust in the government. By the 1990s, conspiracy theories about the government had become so mainstream that they were suffusing popular culture. Many Americans listened to the Iran-Contra investigators like Senator Daniel Inouye, who said that Iran-Contra had shown that there could be this shadowy government within a government. And when they listened to official reports like this, like the Iran-Contra report, they came to want to see represented in popular culture conspiracy theories like those that were shown on the X-Files, one of the most popular shows of the 1990s, with the catchphrases, "Trust no one," "The truth is out there," that suggested there was this massive government conspiracy. So by the 1990s, there were many Americans for whom distrust of the government was just like a reflexive position. It was something that was instinctive to them because they had heard about so many real government conspiracies, and then they saw represented these government conspiracy theories in pop culture. So then, of course, we come to the 21st century, the 9/11 attacks. From the beginning, there were conspiracy theories that the George W. Bush administration was not telling the truth about the 9/11 attacks. These conspiracy theories became more widespread after there were official investigations that showed that President Bush had been briefed about possible Al-Qaeda attacks in the United States. So some Americans began saying that the president had been involved before the attacks, that he had actually helped plan the 9/11 attacks. There were others that said, no, he had known about them in advance, but just decided not to stop them. So by 2006, an opinion poll showed that about a third of Americans believed that the Bush administration either knew in advance about the 9/11 attacks and deliberately let them happen, or had actually been involved in the planning. There were some conspiracy theories that were increasingly being spread on the internet in the 20th century, 21st century, that argued that the Bush administration had actually had a separate building that had the explosives that was the central headquarters for this 9/11 conspiracy theory. And so that's why they had blown up this extra building, not just the two that were hit by the airplanes. Okay, so by 2008, by the time of the crash of 2008 and the time that Barack Obama ran for president of the United States, conspiracy theories had become increasingly widespread among the American public, particularly conspiracy theories about the US government. Now, at the same time as Americans were distrusting their government, they also had not quite as dramatic a drop, but still a demonstrable drop in the trust in media. So this is a graph showing from 1997 to 2016, which shows that only about 30% of Americans by 2016 said that they trusted the media to get the story right most of the time. So if you don't trust the media and you don't trust the government, then who do you trust? Well, increasingly, a lot of people trusted things they saw on the internet, particularly social media. So it is in this environment of distrust of the media, distrust of the government, of increasing conspiracy theories in all avenues of American life, that Donald Trump became a political figure. So Trump started running for office. He thought about running for office in 2012 to oppose Barack Obama's reelection. And the thing that's different about Trump is that he is a major political figure, now the president, espousing these conspiracy theories. There had been conspiracy theories throughout American history before. What changes with Trump is that you have this major political figure, someone running for president and then actually elected president, who is spreading these theories. So it isn't just that there are more conspiracy theories out there. There are more conspiracy theories spread by people in power. So Trump, if you go through his Twitter feed, you can see that he espoused many different kinds of conspiracy theories over the years, most notably the birther conspiracy theory about President Obama, that's suggesting that President Obama might be a secret Muslim, that he at once suggested that 9/11 might have been a conspiracy. He promoted anti-vaxxer conspiracy theories. So many different kinds of conspiracy theories that he threw out there. And then, of course, famously in the 2016 election, the National Enquirer suggested that the Republican candidate Ted Cruz, that his father might have been linked to the JFK assassination. So this was another conspiracy theory that Trump just suggested people should take a look at, that you should ask questions. And President Trump was supported by a lot of media figures who promoted conspiracy theories, most notably Alex Jones, who started his career on public access television in Austin, Texas, back in the 1990s, and then moved to a YouTube channel, to the internet in the 21st century, and became very popular promoting right-wing conspiracy theories. This is a statement from President Trump that I think is very emblematic of where we are. When he was challenged in 2016 about, the facts behind something that he said, I don't know, what do I know? All I know is what's on the internet. And increasingly, this is the attitude of a lot of Americans. If they don't trust the government, if they don't trust official sources, they don't trust the media, then they trust what they see on YouTube. And it means that increasingly people are looking at these alternative realities that espouse these conspiracy theories that can be, in some cases, very dangerous. So I always suggest that people who have questions about conspiracy theories that they see on the internet, you can go to some fact-checking websites that are really excellent, that have dozens of reporters who spend all of their time tracking down conspiracy theories on the internet. So you can go in there and put in the search box, is this thing that I heard true? And they will give you all of the sources for when this conspiracy theory came out, and who is promoting it, and if there's any factual basis for it. So being very helpful for educating yourself when it's there's so much misinformation out there now, that we all need to be very active citizens in raising questions and asking questions, but then also looking for verifiable information about whether these theories are true. So to conclude, these conspiracy theories have been out there for centuries. They are across cultures, but they are more prevalent now, both because they're so much easier to spread on the internet and social media, and because we have people in power who are promoting them. So I will stop sharing my slides now and be available for questions.
Yeah, thank you. So you have studied the history of conspiracy theories in the United States, and I'm just, this might be more of a psychology question, but I am wondering, what is so appealing about conspiracy theories to people? What is it about conspiracy theories that sucks people in?
Well, there's a lot of different answers to that. Let me do my best. I'm a historian, so I look at, what's happened in the past, but I have been to lots of conferences where there are social psychologists who spend their whole lives doing experiments to try and answer that question, and they've done some fascinating research. One of the reasons is that it's just human. You know, it's not necessarily cultural, but human beings look for patterns. They want to believe that things happen for a reason. And so randomness can be very threatening to all people in all cultures. And so conspiracy theories impose a pattern on that randomness. So that can be a very human desire to look for a reason for things that happen, because it can be just really terrifying to think, okay, some 24-year-old loser named Lee Harvey Oswald killed the president and changed the whole course of history in 1963. And so for some people, it can be more satisfying to believe that there are evil people who did it, because someone's in charge. Then it isn't just that, you know, these random things happen, but that someone's in charge. So that can be a very human reason. There's also, if you drill down and look at specifically why certain conspiracy theories apply to certain groups of people, it can be that that particular group has been subject to real conspiracies in the past. For example, African Americans tend to be more inclined to believe conspiracy theories, and a lot of them are aware of the Tuskegee experiment, where the US government withheld treatment for syphilis with infected Black men over decades. They know about that, so they're more inclined to believe that the US government is still having conspiracies against Black people. Also, political scientists often say conspiracy theories are for losers. In other words, if you lose an election, then you're more inclined to believe conspiracy theories about the government. And if your people are in power, then you're less inclined. Of course, that supposition is coming into question lately because President Trump is in power. His people won the election, and yet they tend to still have a lot of conspiracy theories. And finally, people on the extremes tend to have a lot of conspiracy theories. So if you're on the extreme right or the extreme left, then you're more inclined to believe conspiracy theories than people who are more centrist.
And that brings up my next question. It's interesting. If a person believes in a conspiracy, is prone to believe in conspiracy theories, I mean, do they believe in one leads to them believing in two? I mean, do they really embrace all of it, or do you find people just holding on to one conspiracy theory?
No, the research has shown that, in fact, there's a certain kind of person who, if you believe one, then you're more inclined to believe others. There's very few people who just say, okay, I don't believe, you know, 9/11 happened as they say it happened, but all these other ones are crazy. Usually they have a whole lot of conspiracy theories, some of which are mutually contradictory.
Interesting. And this is just, we'll wrap up with this last question, wondering if a person is confronted with a person who's believing in a conspiracy theory, do you have like two techniques that that you could offer as solutions for people who are not conspiracy theory believers? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I've had a lot of experience with this over the years. I would say it never works to just say, oh, that's crazy or that's false. Don't you know anything? But you have to understand that people believe these things for a reason. And, you know, a lot of my study has to do with why, what are those reasons? And the reasons are that there have been real conspiracies in the past. So I think you have to meet the person where they are and say, like, I understand why you would be suspicious of the FBI, because in fact, you know, it did abuse its power over time. But let's take a look at this particular conspiracy theory about the FBI that you're espousing, you know, and then I would recommend those fact-checking sites on the internet, because I think they are really good at giving you links to documentation of all of these theories.
Thank you. Such important information. And if you're watching this presentation, I might recommend to you our community librarian, Jenny Pearson, did a great presentation about how to identify fake news. So if you want to learn more about how to identify fake news, Jenny's got some great tips in her presentation, and you can find that on our YouTube channel. And also just a reminder to fill out the online survey, give us some feedback about today's presentation. And Kathryn, I really want to thank you. This has been really informative, good information that people should be aware of. So thanks.
All right, thank you very much.